time is it? We don't have a clock anymore.
I don't know what time.
6:29.
6:29. Thank you.
So welcome back. We haven't seen each other for a while. We're here to talk about the special town meeting warrant articles. We do have some meeting minutes to review as well. So it looks like first on the agenda is to review and vote on recommendations on articles for the special town meeting. So you should each have a copy of those articles in your packet. So just maybe we can give them a little history, Jeff, on the Recreational Space Committee. Do you want to?
Sure, we can do it quick.
Just real quick.
So about a little over 4 years ago now at this point, there was a committee formed in town, fairly wide committee. Jan was on it representing finance. I was there representing boosters. There was youth football, YAA, public works, conservation, David, Anthony, school, Jen Hamill, Bill Flynn,
Yeah.
and I think that's everybody.
Yeah.
We spent 4 years looking at what was kind of missing from a recreational space perspective. And we did that with we did that with facts versus emotions, if you will. The presentation, we have numbers, how many kids are playing each sport, and what they're using, how much field use they're getting and how much field use is kind of needed or wanted beyond what they're getting. Over the last 20 years, the town has gained the one softball field over here and lost 2 fields that were at the high school, from the old high school to the new high school. There was a baseball field and there was another practice field that field hockey used to use. So net, we're down one facility, if you will, one field, whatever you want to call it, over the last 20 years. In the meantime, sports have grown significantly. And if you take a short look ahead, there's roughly, I can't remember the number exactly, but I would just say over 100 houses currently in the permit process that will open up and grow. So I think the town's population right now was somewhere around 7,500, and we can expect it to get up to 87, I believe the number was. Nonetheless, we can see the growth. Don't stick me to those numbers. They're on the presentation. I can get them. But the town has grown. We all know that if we've been here for a while. The town continues to grow. Athletic facilities have not grown, have not really improved. The highest of those 2 lists really deal with soccer. When I say soccer, the thing about soccer is it also encompasses football. So football has grown, soccer's grown. And right now they have, we have the 2 fields at the Howard, we have the 1 field at the high school. The high school field gets used, during, after school, obviously for football, for field hockey. Oftentimes they share that field, depending on what else is going on. Soccer usually starts the season over in the Howard side, and then it gradually moves over as the Howard kind of turns to mud, just due to overuse. There's roughly 350 to 400 kids on that field in the fall.
So they go to the high school?
The games tend to, when they have, as it moves on, because the field's not great. The other thing about the turf field, Mo, is that they had a homecoming weekend, middle of October. It rained till 1 o'clock that day. They were still able to be on the turf field at 2:30, 3 o'clock to play their game. If they had to play in the grass fields, that wouldn't have worked, just with the mud and everything else the way it is. So there's a need, or there's an identified need to increase the space for soccer. And when I say soccer, a soccer field encompasses football, it encompasses field hockey. If we were to have lacrosse, it would encompass lacrosse as well.
Hopefully they will.
Yeah, well, I think that's, and Jen Hamill has spoken to the fact, and Greg for YAA has spoken to the fact that, sorry, butterfly flew by.
It's a great sport. It takes a few years to get it underway.
Yeah, but as far as field time goes, the high school's kind of capped out right now. So without an additional field, it's not likely that some of those sports would be picked up.
Yeah.
The next biggest issue, if you will, if you went down the list of who's playing how many sports, was
Thank you.
basketball.
Yeah.
And basketball, if you don't know, we only have the high school as a regulation-sized court. I've spent some time with Mr. Weatherby in the other courts. I know he knows darn well how small they are. A lot of the kids play at the Howard, where if you sit in your chair and put your feet out, you will trip up a player as they run by, and the Roselle's even smaller than that. So, you know, we've done what we've done for 20-plus years, and I only say 20 years because I've only been here for 20 years to know kind of where that's at. So we, as a committee, you know, obviously we met a couple of years ago. We purchased what was the Russo greenhouse, you know, nursery, whatever you want to call it, complex. And when we purchased that, we also set aside some money to work with a design company. That company is CHA. They're marked on some of the presentations.
Is it CHA?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. I need a hearing aid.
And they were, you know, in my opinion, they
really
were
good,
fantastic.
yeah.
Like we told them we had the final at least 7 times and then changed it, you know, as we went through it.
Yeah.
And credit to like Chris Iantelli and Tim Hay. Tim came on after John left. John was with us in the beginning, but Chris is a very practical person. You look
Yeah.
at it and kind of go, well, why the hell are you doing it that way?
Yeah.
You know, twist it this way and it makes more sense. So when we looked at
Yeah.
it, it did. So having that wide range of committee kind of helped throughout the process as well.
And I think we went in with the approach that we wanted to try to sort of get everything. Like, what would it cost and what would it look like to kind of get everything that we thought that the town really, you know, could use?
But we also said at that town meeting where we voted for the Russo thing that we would come back with options,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So the
Right.
4 articles today are a result of coming back with
I
options.
really like the way you offered some options instead of packaging it, so either take it or don't.
Yeah,
type
no,
of
that's
thing.
not what we said we would do when we voted, and it's not
Yeah.
what we're doing.
And at the end of the day, when we got all in, the cost was really high. So we really didn't feel like, you know, we could go to the town and just say, this is our only option. We wanted to, you know.
Probably get
come-
voted down.
So what?
I mean, it's a lot of money.
Yeah, yeah, it is. So what we came back with were basically, you know, these 4 articles that are in front of us. The first one pertains to the Russo field. And by and large, if you think of the Russo, the way it works is there's an L that runs across, you know, down Lincoln Street and then up the back. It would encompass 2 turf soccer fields. One a little bigger than the other, but both regulation size. One would be what you would call the champion field or whatever, you know, where you'd play the final game at, right, versus the other. At the elbow, if you will, on Article 1, there would be a building. That building would contain, it'd be very similar to the high school basketball court, right? We've got one long court where you can break it up and run 2 side by side. And in the front of that, there would be bathrooms, concession. There'd be some storage on the side of it, maybe an office or 2, and then that would also be a lockout, lock-in, right? So people couldn't get, you know, they could use the bathrooms, not get in the building, or they could be in the bathrooms and not get out of the building, you know.
Or we could just lock them in the bathroom and forget about it.
Say, come collect them in March when we. So that was Article 1. Article 2 is the same with the soccer fields, but that building for basketball is not included there. It's actually replaced with an outdoor basketball court and 4 pickleball courts, and then a small building that will house restrooms, kind of a small concession stand, and a little bit of storage as well. And the reason for that, you'll see, is there's roughly an $8-9 million difference. That building doubles the cost of the project, if you will, between Article 1 and Article 2. Article 3 came out of our looking at things, is the field at the grass field, baseball field at the high school, right? If we could, what we wanted to do there was take that from dirt and grass and make it a turf field. A couple of reasons. Number one, we've never been able to maintain that baseball field. Just in May this past spring, spent a lot of his own time, money, and energy cleaning it up, removing. There was a bunch of weed and everything else in the base paths, right, the dirt, and trying to get it back to normal. And it looked fantastic. And already there's stuff growing back in.
It's a quagmire, yeah.
And there's also a drainage issue there. No matter what around home plate, it continually floods. Now, the outfield there is big enough to hold the smallest, but still regulation-size soccer field. So again, within that, you can still do field hockey, you can still do lacrosse. And that would alleviate some of the bottleneck for the high school, where if there's a field hockey game going on after school, it affects how football can practice. And it would just create a second field. So that as the turf field's being used, that field can be used as a practice field. And that would increase the ability for field hockey, for football, for soccer, anybody to practice. I don't know that the goal's there to play a lot of games there, but it would be an option if there was a time crunch. Which
So-
generally speaking, as you get towards the end of the season, there's a time crunch because something got rained out or something got pushed back.
So would the high school get priority on those fields?
Yeah, so the way we talked about it, obviously everything would be town.
Yeah.
But from a priority standpoint, the Russo fields the number one priority be youth,
Right.
and the number two would be the high school. At the high school field, the number one priority would be obviously the high school, and then the number two priority would be youth.
So I assume you gotta work out the details. I'm thinking if you had a football practice, but you had a youth soccer game, maybe they could do the practice on the field. But I'm sure those details get worked out.
Yeah.
There was also, we talked about, and I forget if we put it in one of these, but conceptually, you talked about sort of a governance body that would help work out some of the conflicts that way.
Yeah, I just
Because I'm
think
not-
of in Whitman, where most of all my grandkids are. My son was active in youth sports over there. Is the arguments between the town Recreation Commission, the high school, the grammar schools are all fighting for space.
Yeah.
And it's gets contentious after a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah, we believe that this takes care of our space needs for the future, because each of these fields would be lit as well, Mo.
You don't see any conflict?
Not right
Right
now.
now.
I think if youth in football, live primarily at
Seasonal,
Russo,
yeah,
they can
yeah.
make that work.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, the lights, if we didn't have lights, it might be a different story, but where
Right.
we're looking to light everything we're doing, well,
Yeah.
the fields that we're doing here,
Right.
it extends the time, like you get a little later into the fall, it's 5:30, 6
Do we
o'clock.
use that high school football field to the full extent, do you think, that we
Right now,
can?
yes.
Yes.
I think they use it a
With
lot.
Yeah.
youth sports?
So-
To the full extent and then some.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
they can't
So after
even-
football's really, well, no, you got field
Well, you got the
hockey
youth,
and-
you see, if you go by at night, and I just have enough
Yeah.
meetings there at 7 o'clock, 8
Yeah,
o'clock
yeah.
at night, that
Yeah.
youth football's on the field
Right.
until about 9,
Right.
9:30, I think, depending on the age group.
Sure.
But they come on, and there's a couple of groupings of those that come on.
And there's a lot of kids that they can't actually even service right now, and some sports that they can't even, accommodate because there's just no space.
Lacrosse.
Yeah.
I have to ask a
Cross.
question because I've never had kids in town.
Mhm.
I have never had kids. So I don't understand the structure of how the youth sports interacts with the town sports. Do the younger kids always start with youth and they don't play sports until they're in junior high school?
No, I'm sorry,
How does it work?
So youth, I could do a better job, I'm sorry, I didn't.
I'm sorry, I
That's
don't
okay.
know.
No.
'cause I've
So
never had
youth
this
will
experience.
start with something like T-ball at age 6, 7,
Okay.
or soccer begins roughly at age 6 or 7 as
Mhm.
well. And youth is pre-high school in terms of what I'm talking
Right.
about.
But
So
that's not town sponsored, that's by the town.
it's by the West
The-
Bridgewater Youth Athletic
Yeah, right.
Association or the Youth Football Association. So the Athletic Association covers everything but football, and football's its own. It's been that
Okay,
way.
all right.
Jim might know. It's been that way for a long time. I don't know why, but it is what it is. So they will start young, and they will play, right up through. Some of the sports go up through high school. Basketball, for example, youth basketball goes into, I think you go junior, senior year of high school. Just because there's a lot of kids in town, and a basketball team, consists of 15 to 18 kids, and that's it. So
Right, yeah.
as long as there's a need, something like that is continued. Youth soccer, there's a travel program in the spring, and the high school
Don't
kids
the
will play in
parents
that.
take care of the travel parts of that, or?
Yeah, there's still practice here, though.
Oh,
So
I see.
half the
Okay.
games are going to be
It's-
here.
I don't understand where
Yep.
where the funding is coming from.
So the
'cause
parents
I'm
are
thinking
paying,
finance.
so the parents are paying for youth,
Yeah,
right? They're, And the youth is, fees, and the youth is pretty much sustainable in and of itself.
Okay.
I mean, they do some stuff on, I believe this is town land, and they fill out the forms for the high school for use of their fields for Howard, for soccer,
Mm-hmm.
and things along those lines. And then they contribute to the fertilization and the maintenance of the fields there, and they pay for the maintenance and
Okay.
here.
Yeah, thank you.
Although the town cuts the grass, and nobody pays for that if we're getting into the weeds.
No, that's fine. I
Um,
just didn't understand the basic structure.
Yep. So
Thank
then
you.
when they get to high school, it's obviously, the
Yeah.
athletic director in the high school part runs a little different. And the high school does start at 7th grade, but really what we're talking about is 9, 10, 11 for high
Mhm.
school. We do have some middle school sports, but again, the lack of space
Mhm.
prevents middle school soccer teams and other things along
Yeah.
those lines.
So do we have a lifetime on the fields? I know it's based on usage, I'm sure.
I think what they said, between 10 and 15 years, depending on usage,
Turf,
turf.
10 years.
And how you take
So
care of
at
them.
10
Don't forget,
years,
we're 5 years into it.
at
Mhm.
10 years, I'm sure the drainage is in position, so it's really only gonna be the turf.
You see,
Would it all,
Is it a ballpark, 450? I can't remember what he said the last time. To replace just the turf, an existing turf field, replace the turf.
400
400 to half a
for
million, somewhere in
Russo
there.
only?
No, if you were to replace
Per
any
field,
field.
Any turf
So if you
field.
were to replace, so we put Russo in, we've got 2 fields out there, one of them,
450 per field.
yes, it would.
Because a lot of the expense goes on the site work. You don't have to do all the site work and the base work once you're in the field.
Right,
So when
right.
you replace it, you're just replacing the field.
but it's still gonna be 450-ish.
Well, that's an estimate.
Yeah.
And again, it's all tied to.
In
use.
10 years, yeah.
Again, the fields for the most part won't be used during the off months. You have 2 fields you can rotate.
Yeah.
So if we maintain it well, we're hoping to be able to maximize it to its fullest,
Yeah.
lifespan.
And as far as I know, there's different kinds of turf fields. How have you decided what kind of, or who should get that kind?
We haven't gotten
You
into
haven't
that
gotten
detail
that
yet.
far.
So
Okay.
these are estimates at
Do you
this
think
point.
the prices
Yeah.
will,
So all the pricing has contingencies in place,
okay,
and there's a significant contingency
Yeah,
for
it's pretty good
each
size.
article.
if you don't know, yeah.
We don't know, and I think we're at, I don't know, I am by no means an expert, but I feel like we're at a high for some of our pricing.
Good.
And that maybe some of that will come down, but not everything comes down either, so.
So then the last article is 4.
Well, we got it, yeah, so three was the high school field,
Yeah.
and then 4, and we'll get, the first 3 were borrowing articles,
Mhm.
right? This
Right,
last
yeah.
one would come out of free cash.
Those are all 2/3 votes, right?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
and you would, if you chose one, you wouldn't choose 2. If you
Right,
chose
right,
2, you
yeah.
wouldn't choose 1. The 4th one, I'm sorry, was to take free cash. There is an existing basketball court at the Howard School right now that's in rough shape. So we would fix that.
What is it, like asphalt or?
It's just asphalt.
Okay.
And that's really what this last thing, you wouldn't want to call it a paving project because it's not a polite name, but by and large,
Mhm.
it would be repaving or redoing that court, new hoops, bringing that up to snuff, so to speak.
I think they were gonna make it just a little bigger as well.
Yeah. But basically in the
Still
same
will be regulation
footprint.
size?
For the middle
So-
school, yes,
Oh, okay.
not necessarily for high school,
Okay.
but there's more to come.
Okay.
So the Council on Aging, we would put 4 pickleball courts there, behind the Council on Aging, set a little bit to the right, because that big grassy field that you see, while it looks like you'd want to put something there, we would.
It's septic.
There's septic, so
Yeah.
you gotta go off into the trees a little bit, to put that there. And then in addition, there would also be an additional tennis court behind the high school. There are 4 right now. When you play tennis, you have to play 5 matches. So what happens now is they play 4, and then when one person or team or whatever loses, then the other one goes on. But it ends up that usually, both teams end up sitting there for 45 minutes to whatever, to watch the last match take place. And then also back there where the tennis courts were, we're going to add 1 full-size regulation outdoor basketball court, along with that.
That's behind the high school.
That'd be behind the high school.
Now, would the youth basketball group use that new court if we put it out there?
Outside?
Yeah.
Possibly. I can't speak for Greg, but I know that we have kids, when my kids were playing, there was a group of kids in town that went and played in Bridgewater for the summer for an outside league.
Now, do all levels of youth basketball, like the little kids, I don't assume are playing on a full-size court?
They'll play
Half
sideways.
court, yeah.
And at Roselle, there's things that they have that hook onto the
So
hoops, or some of the newer hoops you can
It isn't
actually
until
lower.
later age that they start playing full-size?
Yeah, they start short and low, right, if you will. And then it goes from there.
Right. All right.
So those are the 4 articles. That last one would just be out of free cash
Mhm.
from a vote.
Yeah, and it looks like the fifth one is just $300 at the building department.
Yeah, it was an old bill, municipal finance law raises that you can't pay a bill outside of the fiscal year. So fiscal year 2022 ended on June 30th. And I'm not exactly sure if the bill came in late or what happened, but
Okay.
regardless, we all know a phone bill has to get paid. It's $300, so we just need town meeting approval of it.
Okay. So those are the articles. I think what we need to do is recommend or not recommend, right?
That is
That's okay. So do we have any more discussion, any other questions? I don't know. I hope folks had an opportunity to either attend the public hearing
Yeah,
or
I
watch
watched
it
it.
on
I watched it a
you
couple
know,
times.
Cable. Any other questions?
Jeff, can you bring me up to date on why we didn't consider redoing the Howard school fields?
We did consider that.
We did consider, they're not big enough.
And they're very wet from what I
Yeah, they're
understand.
wet, and you would have to take down it was the space, the width of it is not wide enough when you do turf for the amount of space you need on the sides.
On each side?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I imagine they'll still use that field when they can.
Yeah, and the other concern with the Howard Fields, Jim, was that there's talk of a new school,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and there's a
That-
possibility
that's
if
it.
that school gets built, it'll get built on those
That's
fields.
another whole issue.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But we just, we wanted to stay away from, obviously, that, as it would potentially block. But way back, it was the thought was, once we got the Rousseau, we could build a bigger complex. We were thinking basketball when we started to,
Mhm.
but,
I apologize, I thought
Nope.
you were done.
I am.
I was just, in my head, I did not make any of the meetings, so my bad.
That's okay.
But when it comes to talking about the building, kinda almost doubling the price, was there any conversation that building could actually generate revenue?
So we've had conversations about revenue. Our general impression is we weren't gonna spend a ton of time on it till it got passed, but our intention is to find revenue, both for the fields and for the basketball. There are plenty of club sports always
Yeah.
looking for places to
Yeah.
practice, you've seen that.
Yeah.
And that is both basketball, soccer, I don't think, I don't know, I've never been in the football
Fields,
world, but.
certainly, yeah.
But certainly the fields and certainly the basketball courts, our proximity to Dana Barros is a plus, right? Because there's a lot of tournaments that play local, and if we opened that up as a possibility, we could raise some funds. We also talked briefly about sponsorships. Part of the agreement with the land purchase was to name the complex Rousseau. So that's spoken for, if you will, but that doesn't mean the fields are spoken for, the scoreboards are
Sure.
spoken for, the,
All the building
Yeah.
and
Signage on the fence?
signage,
Yep.
yeah, all that kind of stuff.
And you did have a discussion about the possibility, if we're looking into this kind of thing, we're gonna have to hire a manager or somebody to oversee the scheduling and
well, we talked in the plans is to have a committee appointed by the selectmen. It would be, somebody from youth football, somebody from youth basketball,
a
and
committee.
youth sports,
Yeah,
and then somebody to break the tie, right?
okay.
Yeah.
And then that would manage sort of the schedule and the calendar. And then we also expect there to be fees associated or tied back to both youth sports, usage fees as it comes to covering the cost. The estimated cost for the field maintenance, is 31?
31, I
We were
heard.
guessing, 31 was from a labor standpoint.
Yeah.
Now, that's gonna be absorbed by youth or town?
I don't have all the answers at this point.
So the $31,000 was really for using our, one of our DPW workers.
All right.
And
Oh, yeah.
It is not additional
It was like a
expense.
half a person,
Correct.
yeah.
So it's not additional expense, it was just trying to find some type of an equivalent cost basis to say, okay, if we're having a half a DPW person over the course of a year to work up there, we are taking that person away from somewhere else.
Mhm.
So just trying to be as transparent as we could, we want to display some type of pricing for it.
Right.
We're gonna tweak that a little bit between now and Monday, because the truth of the matter is, we came up with that number, and I'm full disclosure, because I spoke to it that night. We had talked so much about Article 2 that we really didn't discuss that necessarily Article 1 as much as maybe we could have or should have. And so, I think that number changes a little bit, depending on which article, so I'm gonna tweak that slide a little bit. But again, when you say absorbed by the town, it's not an additional expense, it's already people that are here working.
Do we need a machine too?
So a
Yes, there's a
machine will have to be
machine now for the
purchased.
turf, I saw that.
The ballpark in that was about $8,000 for the machine, and it's about 3 to 4 hours to roll it, and they recommend rolling it between once a month to once every 2 months, depending on usage.
That's depending on usage.
Correct.
That's
Yep.
not too bad.
So, because as Jeff said earlier, we literally have millions of dollars worth of contingency, because it's always based on a percentage of the project.
Yeah.
We should be able to absorb $8,000 within that amount to be able to buy it. So we don't expect that we'll have to do an additional purchase for it out of some other article. We think we should be able to do it out of that.
I guess what I wanna say is that this is a tremendous asset to the town, if we can pull this off. It's also a large burden on the front end to the taxpayer. I do believe that we're not gonna see that big load continue, because as we know, we're gonna have more people to pay the taxes. And if we ever get that warehouse built, that's gonna defray it. But up front, that's gonna be a hit.
Yes.
Well, this
Yeah.
is 15 years, is that right, Dave?
Should we go through these numbers a little bit?
Sure, we can do that. So, Article 1 is a combination of 15 years and 30 years. You can bond fields for 15 years, but you can bond buildings for 30 years. So for the first 15 years, based on the average current value right now, it's 383. And after 15 years, that number would substantially drop at that point, because you would no longer be covering the fields. I didn't think it was right to be able to say the first 15 years, this is the number, and after 15 years, this is the number.
Yeah,
And in
'cause you don't know.
15 years, the
Yeah.
average tax, the average house is gonna be vastly different.
Right.
But in year 1, and that's why we say first year impact is 383. Article 2 is weighted more towards 15 years because the building's extremely small. So it is predominantly the fields, so predominantly that will be a 15-year bond build, and then there would be a very small build after that from year 15 to year 30 on the building itself. Article 3 is entirely a 15-year bond, and Article 4 is cash.
Okay.
Any questions on the numbers?
No.
Now, we're also basing all of this on the economy continuing the way it is right now,
Meaning,
correct? There's no
Meaning?
guarantees of that.
meaning,
In terms
You don't know if
of,
the guy's gonna finish those 100 houses on Scotland Street.
Oh,
well, they're
You
not,
don't know, you don't know what other houses may or may not get built.
right.
that's correct, but
We
this,
don't know.
the prices are
for
based on today's prices.
He's
This
gonna-
is,
The tax
this is
impact
based on
isn't
now.
based on future houses, it's based on what's in
Today.
town now.
Right.
Just makes me nervous.
Yeah, it does, and that's why we came with options,
Makes me
because
nervous.
when we saw the 18 million, it was, it's a big shock. And so,
well, we
I'm at a
can
retirement
mitigate
age,
that
not at a
by our
working
votes
age.
here,
Yeah.
so.
Thank you
Right.
very
Yeah.
much.
right,
I am
Okay, I'm
retired.
70. I'm working harder now than I ever did,
right,
and I don't wanna keep doing it. I wanna retire on my dead-end street, not having to worry about my taxes going up $400 a year for the next 30 years, if I to live that long.
Well, there's
Not
another
going
thing
Yeah.
to
Neither does
think
my
of.
wife, I don't even wanna leave the burden on her.
You know,
Mhm.
So
This-
when does it stop?
don't know.
I'm not selling my house, not on a dead-end street.
How
Not
do you
gonna get any quieter. It doesn't get any quieter on your street.
How do you stop it, though? I mean, taxes next year are gonna go again.
Well, the other thing to think about, Jim, is that living in a town that has these kinds of amenities makes your house worth more.
Mhm.
I don't know, that, if I had an answer, I'd tell you.
Yeah, it's definitely a consideration, and, you know,
Listen,
and
I
then
served
there's.
on the school committee for 15 years.
Yeah.
All right, I was all for the new school. Jeff knows that.
Mhm.
I had no issues with the taxes then. David knows that. But at some point, we need to draw a line. I don't say we don't do any of this, but I do say we need to really look hard at it.
Well, I agree, Jim.
I
but
wanna know
That's why we.
what
go
those
with-
fields are gonna represent when you start digging it up. Cause you don't know, and neither do you. You go down 15 feet.
You mean
God forbid.
Russo's.
God forbid we have fields on top of something that we have no idea what's under there. And all of a sudden, kids are getting sick. You don't know that for a fact. You're
The
gonna
soil
need-
samples have been done, Jim.
I think
No, they
that,
have not.
I'm
They have
more,
not gone down further than a couple feet.
I'm more concerned about, I came to this town when I was 12. And I'm more concerned that this is becoming a town that young families can't live in based on the tax and the price of the homes. My daughter could never buy in this town, and her husband's
Well,
a,
it
Please.
is, but it's the
my house went
type
up,
of people
my
moving in
house
are,
doubled in 6 years. I
Yeah.
sold on North Elm Street and bought my father-in-law's house.
it's like
it's
Easton,
doubled.
yeah,
But what around us hasn't.
yeah, exactly.
I know, but it's still,
And houses
this
are
is-
selling in a
this-
minute.
Yeah, I know, but this is still, this town, West Bridgewater's, it's a lot. It's like, I'd like to see a more diverse town than just something that people are coming just for this and are able to pay that. They're able to pay to get the fields, but not every diverse person could come here and get that. And don't we want a town that's more diverse and more
I think,
open to everybody?
honestly, I think that's a housing issue, and it's more than it's a.
It's a statewide issue.
Mm.
Housing is a big problem.
Mm.
It's not just this state, it's really every state,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Well, this is the only one I know about.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
but, you know, it's housing
Well, you know,
shortages
I know how
everywhere.
I'm planning on voting here, and I think there's enough options that we
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
be realistic.
I mean, you know, we have to also consider, you know, we're gonna get budgets that we're gonna have to go through, and I'm sure people aren't gonna be looking for less money. And we also have to think about, you know, the things that I've heard about needing a new school. So, you know, I don't know how that's gonna work out, it's gonna go forward or not, but I think, you know, the plan is to
It's a
ask the state for,
five-year plan.
yeah, I
for-
think so, for some funding, so.
Would that be for the, what school, grades would that be for? What are they looking to replace, the Howard School?
They're
So-
looking to my knowledge, they're looking to consider
Mm-hmm,
combining pre-K
okay.
all the way through
Sixth
the 5th grade.
Fifth grade,
6.
sixth grade, right?
6th, I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry,
Which
okay,
is
At
Roselle.
the Howard School,
okay.
which means, as Jeff spoke, that would have to grow enormously.
Mm.
If anybody has visited the new school in Bridgewater that they built down, I can't remember the name of the street.
No, I haven't,
It's a beautiful school, and that's what they did there.
I'd buy it.
Kindergarten and pre-K have a separate wing
Mhm.
within the school,
Mhm.
which is, you know, what is needed. We also have to keep in mind that our superintendent's office and all of them are all within that facility.
Mhm.
There is thought that Spring Street is eventually gonna sink into the ground, as well as Roselle is just too far away from everything.
Mm.
And that's just a nightmare waiting to happen.
Mhm.
So that property could get sold,
Hmm.
and somebody could develop it, but again, who knows?
Yeah.
This
And
is
it-
what
and
some of the conversation is.
Yeah, it's
From what I
Develop it
know.
into houses and then put more strain on the school
No.
system.
But, I mean, Jeff may know a little more than I do, but that's what I
Yeah.
know.
No,
Okay.
I know there's a proposal, and that's
They're-
it.
They're waiting to hear from,
State.
I don't believe they heard from the state yet, to see if they have their opportunity, present what they'd like to do. And who's to say that may go through in the first round?
Yeah,
Sometimes it takes more than one round.
okay.
It's not an easy project to get something like this approved.
But to go
Not when
back,
the state's giving you 50% of the money.
Yeah,
yeah, to go back to the committee,
yeah,
there's
Okay.
probably 7 or 8 of us in total on that committee.
yeah.
There may be 2 whose children actually step foot on these fields and play something. So the committee wasn't just built
Yeah,
to do, you know, what's
No,
in
I'm
it,
not-
what's in it for me
Yeah, I
kind of thing.
understand that,
And
yeah.
that, it
No,
was
I'm
done, it was
I'm not
done.
insinuating that by any means.
No, I know, but I hear what you're saying, and I understand retirement. I hope to get there sometime soon myself.
It's not gonna
Yeah,
happen.
I was
It is-
looking at it in 7
But,
years.
Not at the rate you're spending my money.
It is a big consideration, though. There are a lot of elderly in
Mhm.
town, and they, you
There
know, fixed incomes and all that, so it is a
Mhm.
consideration, so
Well,
we
we have a
should be
town
thoughtful
meeting.
about
Look, I
that.
want,
You know, it's gonna
I'm all for
decide.
the kids.
Mm,
I was
They're
all for the
gonna say
kids in
yes or
school. That's
no.
why I stayed so long in the committee.
yeah,
And I want them to have the facilities they need to have. I just don't know if we need to go to the top-notch fields all the time,
mhm,
the top buildings, the big beautiful things. I think we can get away with maybe Article 2 and the rest of it from there, for now.
mhm.
Why not?
It's food for thought, from my
Yeah.
point of view.
'Cause if you.
I
if
mean,
you-
I'd love to see that building go up, but I think when you put a building up of that size, and you also have the fields, your maintenance is gonna go way up. That's what I do for a living.
They're only recommending though, you know.
I understand
Our
that.
job is
Yeah.
just to recommend.
But you're gonna need to recommend sooner about who's gonna pay the maintenance on this stuff. When the fields are built. It's not
So-
gonna come under, it's not gonna come under a half man at $30,000.
If you go with Article 2, and at some point down the line, you feel they have enough money, can you build the building
Could,
later?
sure you could.
Yeah, I mean, it would come at the, yes, it would come at the expense of
Parking was
The,
one.
the
the
pickleball
small,
courts and
the small thing there,
yeah.
the
Oh.
pickleball courts and the basketball court. But
Oh,
in this,
okay.
I don't wanna,
No.
it's not nothing, it's money and it costs
Okay.
money. I don't know what other infrastructure might need to be changed underneath it. The thing that couldn't be done was not build the backfield, right, in the elbow, the field that goes towards the woods. Because obviously you would need to transgress over that
Yep.
piece of property first before you
Yeah.
tried to build.
The other thing we didn't really touch on is, all the plans, both Article 1 and Article 2 include a very small, playground for little kids that they can play on, nothing like what we have here, but a little playground for little kids to play on while the older kids are playing their sports,
Right.
just to give them a little space. And it's walking trails, half of which I believe were, handicap accessible, and the other half kind of go deeper into
Right.
the woods. So it's supposed to be a multi-generational,
Mhm.
space with the pickleball courts and the trails and all that stuff. So it is a really nice proposal. It really brings a lot to the town, but completely agree that it's a lot of money. So, I guess maybe we can vote on each one, what we, that's how we should do it,
Keeping in
right?
mind, it's a town meeting and the town
And
will
the town
decide.
is, yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Okay,
So, with that said, do we have a motion with respect to Article 1?
Motion to consider it.
I guess it would be to
And then-
recommend or not
That's
recommend,
correct,
right?
correct.
Would be to recommend or not recommend Article 1.
But then we would vote, right?
Well, then we all can say yay or nay.
Yeah,
You have to make a motion.
yeah. It's just like all the other articles we do with the town meeting is, the finance committee
So
says,
if
yeah,
I-
we recommend it or we don't. And then the town is the ultimate, the town meeting is the ultimate
So
decision
what's
maker.
the procedure then?
so can you recommend them all, is that, or do you have to,
No.
do we have to come up with one between,
Well,
cause that, so, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we do is we take a vote, so,
Yeah.
Okay.
Article 1, all those in favor of recommending it, all those not.
Okay, let's do
So
that.
4-3, 3-2, whatever it
Right.
works out to be, and then Article 2, and then
Yeah.
Article 3, we kinda go
All right.
through, so.
You can still vote, right?
I don't think I should. I mean, I understand I'm here as
I
finance
don't think
committee.
either of you should.
It's a
I'm here
recommendation,
as,
it's
you know-
only a recommendation.
I don't know.
There's no conflict of interest, right? I mean, I'm not making any
They're
money
just
off of it.
they just did the
Recommendation.
research.
I mean, I don't First of all, it's just a recommendation, and it's only gonna be a vote at town meeting.
Yeah. That's right, it is a recommendation, so
Financial gain.
it doesn't really matter.
No.
The town's gonna make the final decision.
Yeah.
Correct.
I
You
just-
don't own the construction company, right?
Correct.
No, I do- I
Okay,
do
you're
not.
okay.
Well,
So you wanna
if I did,
tell
I'd
us?
be a happier camper, that's for sure.
Alright, so
I
do
just-
we have a motion on Article one?
I'll make, you mean a motion
Yeah.
to recommend?
To
or not?
recommend or not recommend?
Make a motion not to recommend.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, who said that? I guess I have to write it down.
I, Cindy.
Jan? Paul?
And Scott.
Scott? Jim?
Yep.
Did I hear you say?
Yep.
Cindy, did you say no?
Yeah, I said
Jan?
aye to the motion.
Yeah, yeah,
So
Not
the
rec-
motion
not
was to
recommend.
not recommend.
recommend, N-O-T,
So those are all,
not.
yeah.
So we
no
have
votes, so
Mo,
to speak.
Cynthia, Scott,
Jim
Jim.
Jan
and yourself.
Okay,
and Jim.
okay.
So all
Sorry.
those except Jeff, did you,
No, I'm no.
Jeff.
you're a no,
Recused.
so it's unanimous,
It's unanimous.
not,
Mhm.
okay.
That would
Oh,
easy
so-
if I-
So I wrote
So
all those names
Jeff-
down for nothing.
Jeff abstained.
Unanimous.
Well, no, you can put, I guess if I can vote, I'm a no, but
Jeff said no, okay. All right, so we all said no.
So it's not unanimous, it was to not recommend.
Correct.
A yes vote is to not recommend, a no is to do the opposite. So I believe it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
We are all saying we
So
got.
all seven said no.
No, we don't wanna
No
recommend.
does,
No,
no means
right?
yes?
You're not recommending.
No.
Not
Correct.
recommending.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Do not.
So we don't even have to bring up recommending.
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
not recommended
So-
unanimously.
Unanimous.
How about Article two?
Yes.
Make a motion, we
Recommend.
approve.
We recommend.
Yeah.
Mo.
Did we second that first motion that Mo made?
No.
Nobody seconded it?
Oh.
Did you second it?
Do we have to do it again?
It has to be seconded.
So would you like
Right?
to make the motion?
Mo.
Technically,
On Article 1,
Yeah.
Article 1 has to
I
be
made
seconded.
a
Yeah, we-
motion
okay.
that we,
We didn't second it, so can you
No, we
redo
did not
it?
recommend it, that we not.
If we can do it,
Okay. Do I have a second on?
I will second,
Okay,
Okay.
Jeff.
I will second the no
Second.
motion.
All those in favor
The no
of
vote.
not recommending Article 1?
Unanimously to
Unanimous.
not recommend.
You gotta do this right, folks, you don't
You're
wanna get caught.
right, you're right.
You don't wanna look at my notes. Okay.
All right, Mo, let's go for the real one.
And
Okay,
Article
now
2,
Article 2, do we
I'll
have a
make
motion on that?
Motion to approve.
To
Article
approve.
2.
Recommend.
To recommend?
Yes, recommend, sorry.
Your
I'll
turn to
second that.
Your turn to second.
I'll
Okay,
second
good.
it.
Cynthia,
Yeah.
second.
Aye.
Aye,
So all those in favor of recommending
Scott.
Article 2?
aye.
Aye,
Cynthia.
I'll go for 2.
It's everybody.
Okay, unanimous. That's much easier.
Yep,
Unanimous. It's
Okay,
unanimous.
and then Article 3?
I thought of, well, I'll make a motion.
now what is Article 3?
This is the
Article-
This is the high
Yeah.
school
3
field,
is
Jeff.
the high school.
So
So
be
it's-
turfing the
so it's
entire
a-
baseball field,
It's a cost of 218 or 1,965,000.
1,965.
I'll move to approve.
Now that includes a soccer field in
The
left field along the driveway.
Yeah, running,
Parallel with the driveway,
yes,
correct?
yes,
The entry.
yeah, or
I mean,
perpendicular to
yeah,
the
yeah,
football
yeah.
field, however you
Would
wanna
you
say
Which
it.
is what we thought we could have done when we built it, but
Yes,
Would you
It's
get a
just not gonna-
contribution from the school budget for this, or could you, or is this not?
this is a town thing, so
No.
not
this
likely.
would be
Just
town,
borrowing.
I think the understanding is the school would maintain it.
It's a borrowing article.
Okay.
So, on the floor, Scott has made a motion to approve.
A motion to recommend?
I'll second that one.
Cynthia said,
To recommend.
Yep.
yeah,
Recommend.
sorry,
And I'll vote yes for that.
second. Votes.
Seconded it?
Aye, I did.
Cynthia.
Okay, I'm
Again?
done
Yeah.
I'm done oh, right, I used
You're
my
on a
second.
roll, huh, Cynthia?
She used her second ability.
I used my second, somebody else is next.
Okay, so now we need to vote on
So
this?
those in favor of recommending Article 3?
Go aye.
Aye.
Doesn't make sense to have a field we can't use.
Unanimously.
No, so I'm not.
You're not, you don't like, okay, sorry.
That's okay. So 6
So what
to
was
1.
it?
Yeah,
6
unanimous.
yes, 1 no.
One no,
How about Jan?
One no?
Correct.
6 yeas and 1 no.
Okay. All right.
So Article 4.
This one the town pays for.
This
Correct?
one- This one's free cash.
You pay too.
It's a town, well, yeah,
Yes.
just not gonna hurt as much.
I agree.
Correct.
You already paid for this one.
Yeah, I know.
I can't say anything.
Does that make you feel better?
Listen, I never got paid in 15 years, trust me, I know.
So do we have a motion on Article 4?
I motion that to recommend Article 4. Did I say it correctly?
And I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Do we second it? Yeah,
Yeah.
right?
I
Yep.
did.
Mo seconded.
Scott, okay.
Anybody opposed? Okay, so that one's unanimous. Alright, so Article 5 is just, really recommending that we pay this
We
bill.
pay our
Yes.
bill, yeah.
So do we have a motion on
Did
that
we
one?
just do 4?
Yeah, we just did 4.
Yes.
Did you go asleep again?
Okay, so we need
We need a motion on
a
Article
motion to
5.
pay the,
Motion to
phone bill?
recommend.
I'll make a motion that we approve the $335.13 to be
Okay,
expended
we have
by
a
the
second?
building department.
Second.
second.
Jeff
yeah.
seconds. Alright, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Nope.
Okay, we got through that.
Meeting minutes?
Alright, thank you for the summary, Jeff.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you,
No,
Jeff.
no
Made
problem.
me understand it better, thank you.
Now we got,
Those are tough things. You wanna do the right thing by the children of the town, but
again,
you
I
have
like
to
the way
consider
that,
everyone.
I like the way you packaged it.
Yeah, and it's interesting, when we did put it out, originally we put out Article 2 and got a fair amount of blowback for the lack of basketball courts.
Yeah,
Interesting. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting.
to see how it goes.
What do they use now? They use the grammar schools, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one, which school is that? Howard?
About the high
That we
school
went in,
on
we have to
Saturday
be like-
mornings or Sunday mornings?
That gets used, but it's, I wish I brought a presentation, the numbers, Mo, when you see the numbers, of people trying to practice and the amount of time, and then when the high school has a game, the amount of time that, that takes up, and so the youth sports, they do touch the high school a little bit, I think on a Sunday, cause generally speaking, the high school teams don't practice on a Sunday. And then the rest of the time, they're in Howard and they're in,
Again,
Well,
I'll defer
Roselle.
over to Whitman, and they do all the youth basketball in the middle school there.
but I would bet you that the middle school has 1 or 2 regulation size field, courts inside the,
That one in the Howard is
Well, for the
downright
little
dangerous.
kids, they can split it,
yeah,
and then when they get to little older kids, they go the full length.
Yeah.
Like
The
the
issue-
length of the court actually goes underneath the hoop
Where?
at Howard Street.
and it's different
It's
lengths.
There's not much room on the sides.
Crazy, yeah.
Yeah.
No, there's no room on the side, there's really no room at the end.
So do you get to play off the wall?
You play into the wall.
But again, I would think the high school, like, if you ran it
More than
all
one concussion.
Saturday morning
Yeah,
or
I guess we would.
Sunday morning, of course, that's church for lots of people, but
Yeah, and you
you could
gotta,
probably pull it off.
you gotta think of practice too, though. That would not result in much in terms of practice.
It's a lot and it's it must be a scheduling nightmare, really.
It is.
It's a
yeah.
challenge.
Yeah.
So we also have, meeting minutes. So we have meeting minutes from March 17th. I know these are old, but, we haven't really got to
Approve them all at once.
So we have to approve the meeting minutes of March 17th. Do I have a motion to approve these meeting minutes?
Motion to
You mean
approve.
approve to whatever, what do we do?
Approve
We
as
have to
accept-
approve them, so
Oh, all right.
motion to approve these ones, we must have already accepted them.
We already
accepted
accepted them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Motion to approve,
Second.
17th.
Okay, and I heard Scott, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Okay, so then we have meeting minutes from March 21st, April 7th, and April 21st, and August 4th to accept. Do I have a motion?
No, hold on a
Accept.
second.
March
It's-
21.
Hold on. It's accept March 21st, April 7th, and the 21st, and then we have to review the August 4th.
No, it's for all, so you would accept the meeting minutes of all 4 of those dates for
And then
review.
for the last
For
one said to
review.
her for review, right?
Yeah,
So we
they're
have.
all for review.
Accept them all for review.
Oh, okay, fine.
So do I have a motion for that?
Moved.
Thank you, Jim.
Second.
Thank you, Scott. All those in favor?
I was
Anyone
not
opposed?
present.
I was confused between reviewing and accepting.
Yeah, right. So, August 4th?
Yeah, it's all of them, that are listed on the agenda.
Oh, okay, so Jim
You're not an
made the
aye.
motion and Scott seconded, right?
Yeah, for all.
Okay,
Correct.
all right,
Yeah,
for all
and
of
we're
them.
just, those are just to review them, and then we'll
We'll
vote on
approve
them.
them next time.
Okay.
I don't write very fast.
That's okay.
The difference
I think
between
we're
you and I,
done.
Cheryl, is you'll be able to
Sure.
read your notes when you get home.
Yeah, I took notes too if you need it, have any gaps.
Okay.
Anything else, I guess we're set, so we have a meeting, when is the special meeting?
So special town meeting is gonna
At
be
the
this
5th?
Monday,
Monday?
December 5th,
7 o'clock?
6 P.M.
6 p.m.
I will post you for 5:30, as I always do, just for half an hour, in case you guys wanna get together and talk,
Okay.
discuss anything or vote on anything. And then I will formally keep you in session during the entirety of town meeting,
Okay,
so that way, just in case as a finance committee, you had to take a vote, you could.
okay,
As you know, we almost never have to do that, or I've never done that,
So far.
but,
Yeah.
yep. Oh, we'll do it for 5:30. The
Okay.
meeting is at 6 o'clock.
perfect.
And then the recreational space will do a full presentation as they did at the public hearing. They'll do a full presentation on everything, and then we'll go into the votes.
So, get your friends out to vote, or to town meeting to vote, right? So do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mo. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jeff. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.